Hello, welcome to For the Love of Sports. My name is Michael Rasile, and my guest today is Jeremy Bhandari. He's the author of Trust the Grind, made it all the way up to #1 on Amazon and teen and young adult fitness and exercise. The former ESPN sports content researcher. Jeremy, how you doing today, man?
Pretty good, Mike. How are you? It's like I said before we were talking, it's a pleasure to be here and I'm excited.
Well, thank you for coming on. I really do appreciate it. It's always nice to meet someone trying to do something, change the world a little bit. Obviously, there's some things going down outside these four walls here, and we support everything that is happening, of course. But we're here to talk about you, man. We're here to talk about your book. We're here to talk about sports, hopefully spread a little positivity while we're doing it. That is one of the goals of the show. But Jeremy, the first question I have for everybody on For the Love of Sports is, why do you love sports so much?
Yeah, my adoration for sports really started at a young age. Before I could even remember, I was 4 or 5 years old, and before I would head off to preschool, my mom would put out the Boston Globe in front of me, and while I ate breakfast, and I would immediately just open to the sports section, read the stats, read the numbers, where were the Sox in the standings, who was leading the league in this, and it's funny because I'm from Massachusetts. You see the Boston ties, and when I played t-ball, when it was time to choose like my favorite player for my card, I chose Alex Rodriguez because he was leading the league in home runs at the time, 2000, 2001. He was killing it on the Rangers, which was funny at the time for like a 4 or 5 year old kid from Massachusetts. We got guys like Nomar, Manny, Pedro. And I'm like, no, I want to choose the guy who plays in Texas just because he leads the league in homers, So I didn't even know who he was. Didn't know where Texas was on the map. But so it was just kind of like always inherently in me to just like numbers and sports. And then my first Celtics game, I was like 8 or 9 and they were playing the 76ers. And at that time, Allen Iverson was a killer, man. He was a killer. And what I just remember, I was so young, but he had like 39, 8 and 7. Like he just, he cooked the Celtics, man. And from that point on, I was like, because Iverson, 6 foot, maybe 160 pounds, like, and he just torched all these professionals. And from that point on, I was like, man, you can do anything. And sports are so inspiring just to see that level of greatness, no matter the size. And from that point on, it just kind of roller coastered as I grew older into just this serious adoration for and appreciation for athletes and what they do. Because you can't. There's a lot of breaks you can have in life, but you can't just because someone in your network is tied with the Yankees. That doesn't mean you can be the shortstop of the Yankees. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so in order to get in that position that the athletes I spoke with got to. It's all on them. It was the sacrifices. It was the goals they set. It was the disciplinary lifestyle,
Yeah, it's so interesting how most people, we're going through, you're wearing your Red Sox hat. I'm a huge Mets fan, so we're kind of on the same. Yes, but we're on the same side most of the time. I'll be honest with you there.
Yeah.
But it's just with everything going on with baseball and the labor agreements and negotiations and everything going back and forth and seeing. That some players are like, well, I don't want to take a 75% pay cut. Like if you ask anybody else, like, would you be okay with taking a 75% pay cut? Everybody would say no. But all of a sudden it's because they're playing the sport. We're all jealous because we wish we could play the sport. But the time, the energy, the effort, all that they did, the hard work that they put in to get to that point. Mike Trout didn't wake up and turned into one of the best, greatest baseball players potentially of all time. He put in a stupid amount of work to get to where he had to get to. And it's just so frustrating seeing how a lot of the public always does side with the owners in these situations. And I guess I'm a little off target there, a little tangent, just because it pisses me off so much. But you're completely correct. Like what these athletes have to do and the hard work, the sacrifice, I think is most important. When you think of a baseball season, it's 162 games in about 185 days, right? So, everyone says how unathletic baseball players are. They talk about how, it's not that big a deal. Like you try and do something for 3 or 4 hours a day for 162 games in 185 days. So it's just really interesting to me. And I'm really excited to talk to you about some of these athletes that you worked with on the book and everything. But as you were saying, the love of sports was there. Boston fandom. I mean, back in the 2000s, it wasn't really what it turned into. Obviously 2004 you had, and then you've been on all these great runs with the
Right.
Celtics winning a couple, obviously the Patriots, now the are you gonna be a Brady fan? Are you a Belichick fan? I have to ask that one, I guess.
Well, you see, I don't know if you can see in the background. I
No,
got
I can see it.
the
I can see
signed
it. Yeah.
Brady poster. And I got that when he was just like a rookie, which is crazy.
Mhm.
No, I mean, I'm just a fan of. To be honest, like I'm not a huge Patriots guy. Like
Mhm.
I'm a Boston Red Sox fan. That's probably the
Mhm.
only Boston team that I really am a
Really?
fan of. But I'm just a fan
Okay.
of like great athletes, great
Mhm. Yeah.
competition, great games. So I love Brady. I love Gronk.
Love
I'm
it.
still gonna root for them. I love Belichick and his dominance. Like I just love greatness in any
Mhm.
field. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree to a certain extent. Definitely hate Tom Brady, but that is what it is. I respect the hell out of him, but man, do I hate him. So maybe that's where I'm a little different than you are. But in terms of that, I mean, I guess was was working in sports always a goal? And how did you try and go about, especially high school and college, try and go about making sure that that goal was going to come true?
It's funny. I knew I wanted. On my high school yearbook, you know how you can write your goals.
Hmm.
I wrote become a star on ESPN or MTV. That was like my goal in high school. So
MTV.
it was like,
All
yeah.
right.
So I was like, I knew I wanted to. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I liked sports, music, entertainment. That's what I knew.
Hmm.
All right, I didn't know exactly which route I wanted to take from that point on. But like I said, I put become a star on ESPN or MTV. So I just wanted to be a part of culture, sports, and
Hmm.
music, entertainment. So as I grew older, I went to college at UMass, and while I was there, at my senior year, I started to look. I was kind of ahead in credit wise, so
Hmm.
I was able to be flexible with my schedule, and I was online one day, and I found this link to like internships, internship credit that you can do through the university, which meant you
Hmm.
could there was a couple programs you could choose from, and it was like a gen ed, right? But it was like you get to go through this internship course, and you get credit like a normal class, just like a gen ed or something. So I opened it up, I looked through, and I saw there was like this sports blogging website that it counted just like a class. You had to submit
Hmm.
3 articles a week, and from that point on, I was like, that's interesting. I've always liked sports. I have a really good understanding of stats and numbers and how to quantify, the accolades and statistics
Hmm.
with a storyline. So I just ran for it. I emailed them, hey, I'm looking to do this. Got it set up through the university, and they were like, yep, it's good to go. 3 articles a week, blah blah blah. Typical curriculum type stuff. And then I started doing it. At first, I didn't really know. You had to come up with your own content and be a voice. So I was doing gambling, fantasy football, like gambling against the
Hmm.
spread, stuff like that every week, and just coming up with trends. It was actually called Stack Your Money Sundays. So every week I would, have the gambling picks of the week for the NFL. And then when it was baseball season, I was doing MLB previews for all 30 teams. So just coming up with content as
Hmm.
each season went on. And it really became something that I enjoyed. It wasn't like a class. And, obviously I was getting credit for it, and it counted towards, my undergraduate degree, which is great. But then in all honesty, I didn't mind, sitting there doing research, looking up stats, creating storylines, and whatnot. So it was like it became a passion instead of just a course. So
Hmm.
like I don't know if it's magic or God is good, but it was I saw a researcher job open up my senior year of high school, college rather, while I was doing this internship. So I just put my name in for this ESPN research job, and I got an email back like, "Hey, would you like to do an interview?" Or an initial phone interview.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
of course, of course. And I remember
Sure,
being on a
ESPN,
Saturday.
please.
Yeah, whatever. I'll do it. Right. And so, I'm just 21, 22 years old. Just like, I can't believe I have this opportunity.
Hmm.
So I remember just, I had probably had 5 or 6 Word documents up of just like things I wanted to say, things I didn't want to forget. After the initial phone interview I did, I had a good conversation with the recruiter, and I remember sending her like a handwritten thank you letter, just anything to stand out. That was my thing. It's like, if I'm going to get an opportunity, I'm going to make sure I go 120%. So, like I said, I had all these documents up of things I wanted to say. I got my points across. I sent them all my material from the internship, all the sports writing. I was like, hey, you know what? Like I have all this, 100+ articles out
Hmm.
that you can peruse from and whatnot. And I have a really good understanding of this. And I was like, I'm willing to learn, and saying all the right things. And I was given another opportunity, another phone call, and another phone call, and another. Eventually, the ESPN process, I think it was 5 phone interviews and 2 in-person evaluations, as
Wow.
well as you have to take a sports test to know and
Hmm.
then score a certain percentage to
Hmm.
know.
Hmm.
So you knew what you were talking about, knowing how to read a box score, knowing how to read anything, just being able to generate content from sports. So yeah, like I said, I just stayed focused every single opportunity I got. Like I said, I did the handwritten, and this is something I recommend to anyone: handwritten thank you card, send it to the recruiter, find the address, because it just gives you a chance to stand out.
Hmm.
And that's what I did. And I just stayed focused each opportunity I got. And it was for the SEC network, which is
Okay.
based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. So I'm gonna be honest, I didn't know too. Growing up in the North, you don't
Hmm.
really, down there in the South, SEC is life, right? But up here, man, it's not. It wasn't that big. So I knew the Bama, the LSU's in football, and Saban and whatnot. But I didn't know like Mississippi State and Ole Miss and
Hmm.
all these stuff. So I was like really doing my research, and I made sure I knew all the coaches' names, and just so I could pitch content. I would try to, they would ask questions like, oh, so what would you do? What kind of content would you generate for the upcoming season previewing football? And I had it all down. I had it all
Hmm.
written down.
Yep.
I just was so prepared. And one thing led to another. I got really lucky. Like I said, in any job opportunity, I think it boiled down to like 166 applicants, and they, like I said, they kind of chose me out of a hat, which was it was crazy, man. And like it was the SEC network, like I said, so that is based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. So as soon as I got the job offer a month after I graduated from college.
Hmm.
So here I am, 1 month I'm just writing sports for this blogging website at college, and then the next month, hey, here's a job at ESPN.
Hmm.
And man, I just couldn't believe. I still remember the day getting the call that I got the job, and immediately started looking for housing down there. And I was like, yeah,
Hmm.
I'm doing it. I don't care. I don't care that
That's
I've lived my
awesome.
whole life in Massachusetts. I'm doing it. It's ESPN. It's a great opportunity, and it was a great time down there.
That is incredible, man. I mean, I think it's so first off, I will say you were not lucky. You worked really, really hard and put yourself in a great position. And you were very well deserving, clearly, of that job. And I just think, again, how kind of everything lines up. I mean, you could have easily just done a little bit of research and known that Mississippi State's in Starkville, right? But instead you went
Right.
and you learned all the coaches and you learned how to
Right.
pitch the content around them and what they're doing. So again, I think it's fantastic on how you were able to take advantage of that situation. As you said, that process is long. How many people, you said it boiled down to 166 applicants. I
Right.
can only imagine how many people applied for that job then. We're talking thousands at that point. So
Right.
it is very impressive that you were able and you earned that opportunity there. I mean, again, growing up, what kid, our age, what boy didn't like watch ESPN and be like, man, I want to work for ESPN one day, right? So I just think it's so cool.
Exactly.
Was this, obviously it was with the SEC network, and as you said, that wasn't, your bread and butter or anything, but it's a foot in the door, right? So was just working at ESPN, was that kind of a, I'm going to use air quotes, a dream job potential, and just that having that opportunity right out of college, just kind
Yeah.
of like, what was that like? That must have been so cool.
Yeah, like I have called it a dream job, and it was like I said, it's the SEC network, but
Hmm.
to summarize what a researcher does, we work hand in hand with the people in Los Angeles, the people in Bristol, the people at
Hmm.
every people even in Texas at the Longhorn Network. The SEC is just a part an
Yeah.
affiliate of ESPN. So if you have content, man, anyone will listen.
Hmm.
So if you have content for Sports Center, if you have content for Get Up, you know what I mean. It's like they will listen, and you are friends with the people who are researching on that show. Usually how it goes, there's one researcher assigned to each show.
Hmm.
So for my role specifically, I worked a lot on the Paul Feinbaum show, SEC Now,
Love the Paul
Fast.
Feinbaum show.
Oh, that's awesome,
It's
man. That is
hysterical,
awesome.
dude. Great job. Whatever you did, I loved it. I can promise you that.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, what a researcher does, 90% of the time, we're working on shows, which means, you come in early, you go to the show meetings, you are, coming up with ways to pitch content, just reading the storylines, headlines, and you're creating the graphics that anytime you see numbers on ESPN, it's from a researcher. It's a researcher came up with that stat, number one, and he actually typed it in and sent it off and pitched it and whatnot. So like I said, the researchers, they don't get enough credit, man, for what they do at ESPN. Some of these people, man, I thought I knew sports going into that. And then I was in some of these chats, some of these meetings, and oh my God, some of these, I mean, you'd be amazed at how bright and how creative some of these researchers really are. And so I worked on a lot of just shows and got to pitch content. And like you said, SEC was not my bread and butter, but I found ways to use the SEC in my favor and try to create bigger storylines. For example, like I remember in the 2019 College World Series, I think it was Michigan versus Vanderbilt was the championship. And Vanderbilt's ours. That's SEC. We've been watching them all year. And I remember just doing research and deep in the Excel databases. And I found that the last time Michigan had defeated a top 5 SEC team in basketball was the Fab Five. And in football, it was Tom Brady's Michigan. They defeated Alabama in the Orange Bowl, I think. So I was like, oh, this is a fantastic note. And here's an opportunity for Michigan to do it in baseball. So I remember just finding that. I'm like, hey, if Michigan beats Vanderbilt tonight in the College World Series, like we can run a montage with Tom Brady and the Fab Five. It'll look great. That's the last time they beat a top 5 SEC team. And they were like, oh, I'm all in. Like, this is great idea. I sent it into like the Bristol Sports Center researchers. And I was like, if you work for the SEC network, you have SEC ties, right? So you're like passionate about the teams. But this night I was like, no, Vanderbilt, we need Michigan. We need Michigan to win. And luckily Michigan won game 1 of the College World Series. And I remember the next day I was at the gym and I turned on Sports Center and there it was, like the content that I created and pitched. So just getting, creating content that was used on Sports Center. I never could have thought 1 year out of college that would happen, right? And so it really was like a dream come true. But like I said, the SEC wasn't my bread and butter, but I made it a way to make it mainstream. And that was so cool, man. And luckily Vanderbilt won the series. So shout out to Vanderbilt. And
so you got your cake and you ate it too. So that's kind of nice.
Perfect way to say it. Yeah. So exactly. So like I said, the researcher role is, creating content, working on shows and helping out people who write ESPN.com articles and just being there for your talent.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's unsung hero kind of stuff. Not everybody can be on TV. That's not how it works. There's not enough spots. That's just unfortunate. That's just the way it goes. But as long as you're part of the, you're a part of the machine, you're a part of the process, and you kind of know you had your hand. And as you said, that was your idea. You found that information and you got it up there. So the millions of people that ended up watching it, maybe they didn't know it was from you, but at least you gave them a smile or said, wow, that is really cool. So it's just kind of interesting, as long as you're comfortable, I guess, again, being kind of one of those unsung heroes. There we go. Words. I think it's really important. And we need way more people like that because too many people like to, they need the credit in some capacity. But as you said, there's so many researchers behind the scenes and in all these shows that, let's shout out those guys and girls every once in a while.
Right. Yeah. I'm glad you said that. But I mean, in this social media world and the internet is so powerful, everyone wants fame instantaneous.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yep.
And I was totally okay with, I understood that it was a blessing to, it's a month after college, I get to, type stuff in and I click send and it's immediately going up on ESPN and SEC Network and stuff like that. So I'm cool. You got to pay your dues, man. Like it's like this. And that's just part of the journey. You got to appreciate even being at the bottom, even though I was, printing out sheets for the talent and running it to them in between commercials and doing whatever I can to make sure they succeed. Right. And you can't have a problem with starting, from square one. It's like everyone wants it so quickly. Everyone wants success so quickly. But, that's how you learn is when you're, not exactly where your dreams or aspirations want to be yet, but just picking people's brains who are in the positions that you want to be. And that's the biggest thing that's what I loved about ESPN. I was surrounded by such great individuals who had, so much success in their lives, and just
Hmm.
being able to sit and listen. You know, I try to not even talk as much. I just wanted to listen and absorb, you know, the way they went about their business, how they prepared for shows. And because some of them are former athletes, as you know, and
Hmm.
you know what they did on the court, on the field, it transitions over to how they prepare for the shows. And it just learning that work ethic, understanding the power of discipline and self-confidence and stuff like that. So it was just awesome. I loved every day.
That is absolutely fantastic, man. It is so true that you really should, you know, you're surrounded by immense talent. So they got there. They've been doing their thing for a while. So kind of soak up as much as you can. And I really like how you put, oh shoot, what were you just saying? Oh, I lost it. Oh my gosh, it's gone. But you had a really great point, and I appreciate all of it. So let's start with that. But no, man, I think, you know, it's really cool, the opportunity that you were able to earn, as I said before, and really make sure that, you know, you were taking advantage of it, learning from all the people along the way. And as you said, you got to make people happy every once in a while, and I think it's pretty damn cool. So kudos to you. Okay, now I remember what I was going to say. So, you know, a lot of people at ESPN, I had Mark Simon on from the Baseball Tonight crew. He started out as
Okay.
a researcher. Right.
Right.
He started out as a researcher. He just started contributing to the show as much as he could in, you know, the ways they asked. And then he went above and beyond. And eventually he got on TV, and then he had an illustrious 15-year career at ESPN, now over at Sports Info Solutions. So, I mean, it's, you know, just because you start at square one doesn't mean you're going to get to the top. There's a long way to get there. You got to do a lot of work and, you know, help a lot of people along the way, but it's a path. To get there. So as you said, you loved every day. You were there for about 2 years. I guess, what was the reason to eventually leave ESPN to start doing what you're doing now?
Yeah. So I mean, God, like I said, I enjoyed every single day, and getting the chance to work with people. I remember, um, you know, during the basketball season, Antoine Walker was there, and this is someone that I grew up, you
Yeah.
know, from Boston, and
Celtics.
him and
Yeah.
Paul Pierce were the guys, man. Antoine was that guy, you know. So it's like, here's a guy I grew up watching and idolizing, and watching all his games, and now we were sitting watching the NBA draft together in the makeup room,
Hmm.
and just dissecting, is this guy a good fit for this team, and how is he going to fit in this role, and you know, are they going to let him shoot, stuff like that, you know, just stuff that like you talk about with your buddy, but here I
Yep.
am talking about it with someone that I grew up watching,
Celtics legend.
a Celtics legend, a multi-time All-Star, champ with the Heat, like total savage. He was a bucket. People forget Antoine was a bucket. So shout out to Antoine. That's my guy. But yeah, man. So from that, and then I remember one day I was sitting at work, and my manager came up to me. He was like, "Would you like to do you know, an on-site game, be the researcher or the live researcher for a college basketball game?" And I don't really like to travel that much, man.
Hmm.
So I was you know, I was like, eh. And they were like, "It's for a Tulane basketball game." And I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, Tulane, like
Oh,
who's
uh,
on Tulane? Like, I don't
yeah,
really
New
know.
Orleans at least, right? You
Right,
can go
right.
there,
So
hang out a
that's the
little
thing.
bit
It was
still.
in New. I had never been to New Orleans, so I was like,
There you go.
maybe, you know, but Tulane, you know, how fun is that researching a game? And they were like, well, they're playing Memphis, and I was like, Anthony Penny Hardaway's Memphis team.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's. When's the plane? I'm there. And so like I remember going there, meeting Penny, getting a cool picture with him, and just getting to chop it up with him, because people forget too, if he didn't get injured, man,
Hmm.
he was a killer. Like, I'm talking all NBA first team, like as a 23, 24-year-old. He's in blue chips. He had his own shoe with Nike. Like, he was that guy. He was that guy before he got hurt. So just getting the honor to meet him, and so, like I said, I had like this deep appreciation, as you can tell, for like
Hmm.
successful world class studs. And from there, man, like I had always wanted to do something impactful. Like, I loved the research job and creating content for ESPN, but I just wanted something to my name, something that Jeremy Bhandari did, and something that was inspiring and came along with a positive motive.
Hmm.
So I just, you know, did some brainstorming when I wasn't at work, and I thought, you know, I understand sports really well. The passion is there, the appreciation for these men and women is there. What if I wrote something with sports? What if okay, now the wheels start turning. I'm
Hmm.
like, you know, my job is all obsessed with stats and accolades. So I kind of want to shy away from that aspect of
Hmm.
it, but I still want to keep it true to the sports narrative. So what if, okay, you can't, like I said before, you can't know someone in your network can play shortstop for the Yankees. So I was like, Well, they have a great understanding of, productive tendencies and habits. So what if we just talked about that with them? I know it's a
Mhm.
little out there, but I think we could formulate some sort of blueprint here. And so I just started writing down things I wanted to talk about, goal setting, developing
Mhm.
self-discipline, the power of positive thinking, self-confidence, making sacrifices, things of that nature, and productive tendencies and that we all know work if you want to be successful, right? So from that point on, man, like I said, I always had this burning desire to make a difference, to inspire the youth. It was always something in me. I didn't know
Mhm.
how it was going to formulate, and I still don't know. I'm still young. I'm still thinking of new things. But at that point in time, it was like, you know what? I understand sports really well. I have this love and adoration for it. Here's something we can do. Let's make a success habit blueprint for the kids, to learn from some of the the best athletes to ever walk this planet.
Mhm.
And so from that point on, I like I said, I wrote down things I wanted to talk about, motifs or themes, goal setting, discipline, like we said. And then I started reaching out, man. I just started, hey, I have this idea. I want to, do you think I could talk to so and so for 20, 25, 30 minutes?
Mhm.
And it boiled down to 16 athletes, but I probably reached out to 100.
Mhm.
So it's just a numbers game. When people see the final product, they're like, "Oh my God, how did you get that roster of talent?" And it's just, man, it's just a follow up game, and it's just a numbers game. Like I said, you got to just reach out and not be afraid of if someone says no, and just and when someone says yes, do your homework and make sure you're tightened up
Mhm.
and get the
Yep.
most out of it. And man, it was just it happened so quickly. The process of it, where I remember, my first interview was with J Kidd, and like, I, I couldn't even fathom like speaking to Jason Kidd, right? So
Mhm.
I'm a kid, like I'm as a child, I remember growing up and, being from outside of like the Boston sports, if you went to school, it was all about rocking the coolest jerseys, right? At least when I was a child. So,
Mhm.
so when I was in, third, fourth grade, the coldest jerseys were, and rest in peace to the Mamba, but the coldest jerseys were like the Kobe 8, the T-Mac number
Mhm.
one on Orlando. It was
Yep.
so tough. And of course, like I said, the Answer AI, that Philly jersey, and then the J Kidd New Jersey Nets. So so for me to like be able to converse with him, and this is a dude in like Mike,
Yep.
he had the toughest jersey. Like, this is my guy, right? I love this guy growing up, and I'm sure you have an appreciation for him coming
Yeah, yeah,
from
being here,
where you're
I
from.
remember those 2 championship runs. I
Yeah.
watched all of those playoffs, and then they just get smoked by the Spurs, but it was still fun. We're kind of crossing our fingers, but no, man, it's so true, and I just think it's so cool, like, how you've been able to connect with some more of these athletes. So you get Jason Kidd, I know Chipper Jones is on that
Yep.
list. You already brought up Paige Van Zandt. I mean, even though you've been around some athletes through ESPN, how much more different was it now that the ESPN badge isn't on, or it's not
Right.
Jeremy with ESPN, now it's, hey, I'm Jeremy and I'm trying to write a book. Like, how
Right.
different is that, not having, I guess, the mothership behind you or in front of you in some capacity?
Yeah, man. That's a great question, because here I am. Hi, I'm an inspiring author.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay,
Hmm.
Um, but I think the concept of it is what drew people in, right?
Yeah.
It's hey, I'm writing a book to inspire the youth. I would like to talk to you about self-discipline, or goal setting,
Hmm.
or being yourself, stuff like that. So like, yeah, I got time to spare, and most of the athletes are retired athletes. That was the whole objective. Is I wanted people already established, so the book would grow as it got older. It would age well,
Hmm.
so to say.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I want to get Hall of Fame retired athletes, and that's, we got lucky, and that's what we were able to do. But yeah, man, I remember, like I said, J Kidd, it was like so nerve wracking, because now I'm out of my element, right? I'm
Hmm.
not a writer. I'm not an author of anything. I'm not researching. I'm not researching sports. Here I am. I'm interviewing. I've never interviewed someone in my life, and now I've created this idea, and I've reached out. I took the chance, and it's happening now. It's happening now. I have to show up and do the research and come up with interview questions for J Kidd and like To and Mike Madonna and all these people, and it's like, I remember, yeah. So like I said, speaking to J Kidd, I knew I wanted to center it around self-discipline. So I'm
Hmm.
coming up with all these self-discipline questions. We're talking about all the shots he hit, and all the shots he practiced, rather 1,000 shots a day. I'm watching film. I'm dribbling with 2 balls, basketball stuff. And as the conversation went on, I was like, I kind of in my head, I'm like, I need to shy away from hoops. I need to find something else. And we just broke down discipline. And then all of a sudden he starts talking about how he used to journal during his NBA career. And I was like, that's interesting. Tell me more about that. He's just talking about, yeah, you got to write down, it's a long season and it's tiresome. And he's like, I would write down when things were going well. What was I eating? Who was I surrounding myself with? What kind of training was I doing? Aside from writing down your goals, he was writing down everyday stuff, just diarying, like it's a diary. And and from that, I was like, that's really interesting. Like writing down stuff, writing down goals, writing down when things were going well, when things were going bad. What was it about? Was it the people you were around? Was it the food you were eating? Were you not napping before? Whatever it was. And he's like, so I can always go back and reflect. I can look back at the good days. Oh, game 67, 2 years ago, I was, we were 70 games into the season, but I was doing this. So I was still on top of my game. So let's just, take that over to this year. Right. So I was like, man, that's so interesting. Right. So then I do some research on the power of writing things down. And when you get the book, you'll see it's like we have research saying if you write down your goals, you're more likely to achieve them because, it triggers both hemispheres in your brain and stuff when you physically bring something to life through writing it down. So just stuff like that. So we were able to kind of humanize it, right? So it's like sometimes when you're growing up, you don't even think these guys are these men and women are human from what they're able to do, and it's such art on the court or whatnot. And so now here I am talking with a Hall of Famer, someone who did things that only Magic Johnson did on the court. And now we're talking about writing down your goals, writing down when things were going well, what were the food you were eating, the people you were around, stuff like that. And that's something that anyone, I don't care what walk of life you enter, this is something anybody can do. You can no matter what you do, you can write down your goals, you can write down your dreams, you can write down the food you when you were playing at a high level or when you were performing at a high level, when your grades were high, what were you eating, who were you surrounding yourself with, stuff like that. What kind of content were you absorbing? Were you watching mindless TV stuff, or were you reading books? Whatever it is in your fashion. But so that's like I said, that was the first interview, and I was like, okay, I think I'm onto something. I think I've created something where we don't have to base it around sports. Now we're creating something. I knew the tendency thing, the productive tendency stuff, but now I actually have exercises that people can instill into their own lives.
Nice. Yep.
And so I kind of just took that ideology and just carried it throughout the rest of the process, man. But I was nervous at first, talking to these Hall of Fame players. And like I said, I just stayed focused. I didn't try to do too much. I didn't try to control too much. It was I really just wanted to listen. I would ask questions and just let them talk so I could just soak everything in, not open my mouth, not cut them off, just learn from the greats. And aside from creating the project, I still remember the conversations that I had with these men and women, and they're so inspiring, and it was such a unbelievable experience for me.
Yeah, I mean, you made a great couple points there. One is, before you even learned about the journaling and the writing down, you told me that, you wrote all this down. You're like, hey, I have this idea, let's kind of get it out there, and you write it all down, right? So you kind of learned it before you even learned it. And then as you were saying before, at ESPN, you were surrounded by all these greats. So you just tried to shut up and just soak up that information, and you did the exact same thing. So that process, which you learned over at ESPN, was able to come forward in your interviewing skills and process and understanding, let's just let them talk. Let them talk. They're Hall of Famers. I'm not a Hall of Famer yet, right? But they're Hall of Famers, so let's enjoy what they have to say. And I think that's really cool, man. And I guess going back to ESPN for a second, when did you realize through this process that you were not going to be able to do both things at once? At what point were you like, all right, I either have to go all in or I have to kind of pause, writing this book and considering, especially being at ESPN, you probably had more ties and could have come in contact with more people. I don't know. I'm just kind of making an assumption there. But at what point did you realize it was kind of one or the other?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. It was something where my passion took over the occupation. Yeah. And that when I started to realize that I wasn't thinking as much about researching and as far as future plans went, I was like, you know what? I really enjoy creating content on my own and just having my own name to something and generating different ways to look at sports. I love ESPN, and I still watch it to this day. And I watched every second of The Last Dance, and
Absolutely.
yeah, and so like they do such a great job, and there's a place for that. But for my talents personally, I'm someone who likes to spread positivity in using sports or using entertainment or whatever it is. And I realized that there are so many great researchers, and if I towed the line, I could have maybe worked my way up to producing shows and whatnot. But for me, I wasn't exactly passionate about taking that route. I was more passionate. I was like, you know what, I created this idea on my own, and I think I have something here. And once I got the names, once I started writing once I got the literary contract, that's when I was like, you know what, I believe in myself, and I'm going to take this chance. I'm going to really go all in on this project. And I'm really happy with the results so far.
I love it, man. Congratulations. And I guess what is it like writing a book? I mean, I know I'm going through it, and it's definitely something. But I'm, knock on wood, for lack of a better term. I mean, we're in a pandemic, so I kind of just been stuck inside for the last 3 months anyway. So that's really helped, honestly. So, positivity a little bit there, I guess. But like, what was it like? What's the process? What was the process you went through? As you said, you had a literary contract. So was someone helping you? Was there someone kind of guiding you through this process and understanding the steps along the way? It's not just like, all right, start writing chapter 1. There's actually like a little bit more to it than just writing something in what you think is the correct order. So how did you go about that, and how long did it really take before you really hit your groove?
Yeah, so like I said, I'm going to start the story. Like I moved to North Carolina, right? The first 21 years of my life were in Massachusetts. Grew up in Ashland, Massachusetts. Went to UMass. Like, so I've lived in Massachusetts my whole life. Get this job opportunity in North Carolina. Don't know anything about North Carolina. No family, no friends. So I moved down there, right? And all I have, when you move in it's basically like a foreign territory, right? You don't know anyone. And if I'm not at work, what am I going to do? I'm not going to show up somewhere by myself or whatnot. So that's kind of how like the book started as well. It was like, I don't know people here yet. I don't really know what I'm doing. What if I got to come up with some sort of hobby? I got to either, start playing a sport down here, or pick up something to do in my free time. Right. So it was kind of just something I crawled into, really. So like I said, I wrote down, I had the idea, and then and once I started getting the interviews, I just had such this deep respect and appreciation for some of these people, man. And like J Kidd, and I remember sending him we did the interview, and like maybe 2 or 3 days later, I sent him the draft. I was like, yo, of the entire chapter. Because I just such this deep appreciation for someone who I grew up idolizing. And now here I am. He gave me, 30 minutes or whatever it was on the phone. So it's just, I was like, I can't let this guy down. I'm going to send it back to him right away. And I hit him back, and he was like, wow, this is really cool. Like, I appreciate this. Because it's one thing, glorify stats. And we do talk about numbers. It's important to know to the listener, to the reader, that there's only 2 players in NBA history who have 15,000 points, 10,000 assists, 5,000 boards. That's Irvin Magic Johnson, and that's J Kidd. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's important that we know that. And it's important to know, like, there's only 2 switch hitters ever who, I think it's 300 average or 400 homers and 400 OBP or above. And that's Mickey Mantle, and that's Chipper Jones. Like, put some respect on their name. So we do talk about stats. But anyway, so I had this deep appreciation, and you asked, like, what is the process like? Because I had this appreciation for these people, and for them to give me their time, I wanted to get those pieces back right away, at least the drafts of them, right? So then I remember hitting them back right away, J Kidd, and he liked it. And so from there, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do this. So each interview I got, we would do the interview, and not even a week would go by, and I would always send a draft. I would always send a draft of it, just to show them, hey, I appreciate what you did, and here's what I'm thinking for this, for your chapter, right? So I just created these fake deadlines in my head. And I think that helps a lot when you're starting out, because at this point I didn't have a publisher yet. It was just an idea, right? So for me, what that works, I do a lot of like self-talk. So I'll create fake deadlines. I'll create, hey, you got to do this or else you suck. stuff like that, which sounds crazy, but it helps. It works for me.
If it
It
works
works
for
for
you.
me to create these deadlines and these narratives that may or may not be real. Like we saw that with Mike in the Last Dance. I don't know if you watched Last Dance, but there was I'm blanking on his name, but the dude on the Wizards who
that rookie that didn't say anything to him, and he's just like,
then
he said
said
nice
good game,
game or
Mike.
whatever,
He
right?
didn't really. Yeah. So like it was funny when I saw that. I was like, man, that's exactly what I did with this project. I was like, you know what, you better have this in by this day or whatever. Like you better send this to J Kidd or whoever it was by this day, or else like they're not gonna take it seriously. Blah blah blah. So so like I said, I would create these false narratives, and it just helped for me. It helped for me to stay accountable, and like I said, writing stuff down always helped. And so from that point on, because I created these deadlines, I had a pretty good manuscript, at least a pitch for it, right? They were all in draft form, but I had a pretty good pitch. So I got a couple of sample chapters, and I sent them around to publishers, 3 or 4 sample chapters with the idea, a blueprint behind what we're doing. It's, hey, it's athletes, but we're really talking about productive tendencies to help inspire the youth. And so when people see that and they started reading the content, right. Positive message right off the bat. And then they see, the J Kidd journaling stuff. And then we got the science behind the journaling. And then Chipper Jones, man, it was cool because when I was doing research, I had read like an early mid 90s interview where he was probably 23, 24, and they asked him like what his yearly goals were for the upcoming season. And he said, I'm gonna hit 340 homer, like just these colossal stats that only Hank Aaron had achieved in Braves history. So here's like this 24, 25-year-old kid talking, I'm gonna hit 40 homers, I'm gonna knock in 100 runs, all this stuff. And then 2 years later, he accomplishes his goal, right? He becomes, now it's him and Hank Aaron who have done it in Braves history. So the whole message, it's not about like the gaudy stats and, admiring the baseball numbers. What part of it is, but the whole message is, hey, say your goals out loud. You're going to become more accountable when you say them out loud. Having the valor to actually speak it into existence. There's something powerful in that. You know what I mean? And we see that across a lot of sports and in life in general. If you have the courage to say things out loud, you'd be surprised what you'd be able to accomplish. So it's just like once I had like these ideas, it wasn't necessarily about sports. Now it's about saying goals out loud. It's about writing down goals. It's about making sacrifices. It's about eating these foods. It's about exercising this time, So it was an easy pitch. So then I had a couple offers, and I ended up choosing Mango Publishing, which is one of the fastest growing independent publishers. For the second year in a row, it's ranked the fastest growing independent publisher by Publishers Weekly, which is just a testament to the entire staff over there, from the editors to the graphic designers to the marketing specialist, everyone, you name it. And nothing but positivity from them. And so then when you get a publishing deal, now you have real deadlines. Now it's like, okay, now we need the rest of the book by then. Let's try to get some more different sports, which like I think it's 11 different arenas, 16 athletes, but it's players from 11 different sports, right? So it's like diversity. Let's get men and women, and let's just keep doing what you're doing. But here's the deadline, and then as you know, you said you're kind of involved in your own process. So it's coming up with a manuscript, working with an editor. I wrote the entire book, but they cleaned up punctuational stuff, and because I'm still learning. But yeah, I think because I had the whole idea in my head and I had it written down, and made it a lot easier. I wasn't just starting from square one and just trying to come up with something. It was already research stuff. It was already stuff that I knew would work. And I just had to, meet the deadlines and go through the process and the marketing and the coming up with ways to sell it and, doing interviews and just finding ways to get the message out there. And that's what we're doing today.
That's what we're doing today, man. And don't worry, the link will be in the bio so everyone can go check that out in the description, whatever the hell we call that thing today. And I think one thing that you put out there, you said, it's not about, it's about the people and what they did to get those statistics, right? It's not about just this is Jason Kidd, he's one of the best ever. It's, well, this is how he became one of the 2 best point guards potentially in NBA history, depending on, this one stat that says probably one of the 2 best. It's same thing, Chipper Jones. It's not about the stats, it's how he got to the stats. And you can then, as people, as anyone listening or reading, you can then go about reading that and understanding how they went about it. Take from each of these interviews, from each of these incredible athletes that you had the opportunity to learn from, and just be able to take those pieces of the puzzle and put that together for yourself. Use what works for you. And now you're able to go and accomplish the goals that you're looking to go and accomplish. And again, I like that you're going from the youth aspect, because I think that is very important, especially with social media. Now, I'm not like a social scientist or anything, but I don't think social media is like really good for kids, like in many facets. We don't have to dive too deep into that, but I think that's like a whole nother topic. And I think, again, just spreading positivity, especially to youth, is very, very important. And so, I love the idea for the book. I love how you went about it. I love how you do it. I'm very excited to read it. But what are some of the results? What's some of the feedback that you've been getting from people that have read, from people that have reached out? The opportunities, obviously speaking here. I appreciate you coming on, of course, and spreading that story a little bit more. But what are some of the other things that have come about from it?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me, once I would share it with the athletes and they said, "Oh, great job," or "I like it, this is spot on," stuff like that. That meant a lot to me. That meant everything.
Oh, absolutely.
So once the book actually came out, and then some of the athletes went to Twitter, to Facebook, Instagram, you name it, to kind of promote it. That's when I was like, oh man, this is incredible. And it skyrocketed, like we said, to #1 in its category,
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't believe it. This was just something I wanted to do, to have my name on something, and be able to speak with people that I really admired growing up. And yeah, so I just recently, we just added it to the summer readings option list for my hometown, Ashland High School. So it's just,
Congratulations, dude.
appreciate it,
That's
man. I really
awesome.
appreciate it. Yeah, so it's like just giving the kids the opportunity to learn from some of the best to ever do it, like we said. And so when I heard that, when I had that meeting, it was just incredible, man. Just the support from my community, and just getting some feedback here and there from friends, family, friends of friends, and things of that nature, who have little kids or little
Mhm.
brothers, who, hey, we gave it to him, and now he's asking for us to get different groceries, and
Yep.
foods with zinc in it, and stuff like that, and vitamin A, vitamin C foods, and asking for a journal and stuff like that, man. Which that was the whole message. So it's
Mhm.
like to get notes like that, and just we're just here to spread positivity. So I'm just wanted to do my part. I just wanted to do my part, and I thought my understanding for sports and appreciation for the athletes, this was a perfect way to kind of exemplify that.
Mhm.
And like I said, it's great so far. I'm just looking to spread the message as far as possible.
I love it, brother, and hopefully I can help you do that a little bit. And so I guess
Yes, sir.
what are some of the future goals? I mean, I'm sure you got version 2.0 coming up pretty soon, or at least that's in the works a little bit. Like, what are some other things that you're working on, and how how are you going about, just trying to spread the message? And obviously, again, coming on here, appreciate it, but spread the message, spread the positivity, and really just help as many people as you can.
Yeah, I think like you said, we're focused on spreading trust the grind, but as far as future endeavors go, it's I'm working on a fiction project right now, which not too there's sports references a little bit here
Hmm.
and there, but it's more about spreading positivity, and teaching people about confidence, and
Hmm.
underlying messages. We have a plot. Obviously, when you write fiction, it's a plot, but
Yeah.
there's always, in good fiction, there's underlying messages that
Hmm.
you can take from, and instill into your own life. And that's what I'm trying to do there. So I'm working on that, which I would love to have as a fictional book, but maybe even a film. And just from doing these interviews, and
Hmm.
people, I talk to people after, and I make the connections, and like, man, you should really take this entertainment route seriously. I know you have a research background and you understand sports, but you have a good vision, and you have the passion for doing good. And I think if you continue with this creative writing and stuff like that. So I'm looking to kind of take the advice of what people tell me, and really pursue this entertainment, whatever that means. If it
Hmm.
means hosting my own show, like an interview show, or just something, or acting in a way to spread positivity, I'll do whatever. And so I immediately, I'm focused on this fictionalized project to try to spread that out there. But yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to do my part, and spread positivity and create good art, whether that's in literary, entertainment, whatever it is. Just spread positivity, spread good, and do good, and just do my part while I'm here. And I'm just hoping, people can understand that and appreciate that.
That's all we can ask for, man. As long as you're doing good, you're being a good person, that positivity words come up a lot. I am a true believer in it as well. Negative thinking is really not going to get you anywhere. Just kind of bogs you down. So I'm on that train with you, man. I'll help you shout it from the rooftops, and hopefully this interview here lets people check that out a little bit. As I said, the book is going to be in the link to the description, so don't worry about that, everyone that's paying attention. So Jeremy, man, this has been absolutely fantastic. Jeremy Bhandari, author of the Amazon #1 teen and young adult fitness and exercise. The Trust the Grind. Really appreciate your time today, man.
Appreciate it, Michael. Like I said, this means a lot, and I've been watching a lot of your stuff, and it's just fantastic work that you're doing. And I really want to thank you for all the positivity that you're spreading and the knowledge that you're spreading to whoever wants it.
That's what I'm trying to do, man. We're all on that same train. I appreciate it, Jeremy.
Yes, sir.